Okay, so I'd say I am just as guilty as any other producer who has far too often ignored the wealth of sound resources available to us right here in the Apple Loops library. There's tons to choose from. There's no need to go through it all. If you've got Logic, you can do that yourself. But the whole point of this tutorial is to show you how you can actually create great productions using the Apple Loops library and not sound like anyone else. Now, the challenge is, how does one make good use of this fantastic resource of loops without sounding the same as thousands of other people who also have the same loops in their library? Well, the key is modification. And I'm going to show you right now how you can quickly and easily modify these loops using the tools in Logic 10.5. I'm going to start off with synth sound. So let's go to the synth category and we're going to go for this one right here, Technicolor synth chords. Let's have a listen. Okay, so that's what it sounds like. Let's just drag it into main window right here. As you can see over here, the recommended tempo of this loop here is 130. Of course, you can play it back at any tempo you like. However, what we're going to do, we're going to go for 146. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a brand new sampler instrument. So let's come up here. I've got this region down here of the Technicolor synth chords, but I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use the raw source from the library. It actually makes a difference. I tested this out and it does make a difference. So we're going to grab this and we're going to drag it over up to here. We've got two options. In fact, we've got chromatic, we've got optimized, and then within that, we've got zone per file and zone per note. And over here, we've got zone per file split at silence. Now, make sure you check out my video on the brand new sampler. I've got one on the quick sampler, but also on the sampler. So do check that out because it gives you a more in-depth understanding of how this thing works. Anyway, we're going to drop this here on split at silence. And as you can see, after analysis, Logic has split this up. So if I was to use my MIDI keyboard now and play some of these notes, so what's happened is each one of these chords have now been automatically assigned to different notes. Now, what I want to do is kind of refine this a little bit. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to change my view to say 125. And then I'm just going to close some of these up here just to give myself a bit more viewing space. So here we go now. So the waveform is displayed a lot better and we can now go in. If I was to press the first note, okay, so that's cool. I might adjust the start point just a touch there. Let's try the second one. Yep, let's fix that as well. The third one. So I'm going to go through and adjust them all. The other thing I'm going to do is not just the start point, I'm going to adjust the end points as well. So they ring out a little bit longer, like here. Okay. Also, the other thing you want to make sure of is set the snap to 0 crossing. You've got three options here. You've got transient, you've got beat and off. I set it to 0 crossing for this type of thing. And that will give you a much cleaner transition between each of these notes. Let me just fix this up and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now that's all done. The notes look like this. I'm going to switch synth on again, and we're going to come up here to details. We're going to click on that, and we are going to set this to monophonic, mono right here. So the notes don't play over each other. When each note is played, the previous note would automatically cut out. I'm not really going to do much else with this for now. The other thing you want to do is make sure that each of these slices is not set to one shot. We want to control the length of each of these slices. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is try and use this as one of our fundamental production ideas. So here's the sound. Now, as you can see over here, I've added a few effects onto the channel strip. The first thing I've added is an EQ, which is down here. And the idea of this is to filter out a lot of this low and low mid section. Let's have a listen on and off. Okay, and now, okay, so taking out some of those lows. Okay, so that's the first thing. Next thing I've added is a stereo delay, really simple stereo delay. Okay, now things are taking shape. And then we've added some reverb. Okay, so let's just put something down real quick. That's all I'm going to use that for. And it's a complete departure from what we had here. Okay, cool. Let's move on to our next sound. Okay, so for the next sound, we're actually going to use the exact same instrument that we just created, the Technicolor synth chords, and we're going to create a new texture that again will form the basis of this production. So I've just duplicated the track right here. So let's play back one of the notes. Okay, now we're going to do something with the effects in a minute, but first thing we do is go into the actual sampler. And now we can see all of our zones. What we want to do here now is we want to reverse all of these zones. Now we can do it by pressing a note on the keyboard and then coming down here and clicking reverse. Or there's another way of doing it, which is to come up here to zone. This will display all of the zone parameters and we can slide across like so. And over here we've got playback options. So I'm just going to go for reverse on all of these. Click reverse here and all the way down until we've selected all of them. Okay, and let's play that back. So now we've got the reverse version of the synth. Let's just add reverse so we can identify what's going on. I'm going to add some new effects onto the channel strip just to kind of give some variation, and then we're going to combine the two production elements and then go from there. So another thing you can do after you've done the reverses is come up to the synth section like so, and what I've done here is I've switched on filter 2 and chosen the low pass filter 6 dB lush fat, and then I've just messed with the cutoff, resonance and the drive controls, because what I want is for this particular version of the sound to be darker than the original. So here's the sound without the filter switched on. And now with the filter switched on. Okay, we're going to add some more effects to that to sweeten things up and combine it with the other part that we've already put down. So I've added the Logic Auto Filter as well as the Logic Fat FX plugins, and I've come up with a little pattern right here. Let's play this back. Okay, things are now taking shape. Let's go for a new sound. Now the next sound we're going to use is this loop right here. It's a lovely loop and I'm sure it's going to be used by a lot of people, but we're going to find a way to disguise it. Check this out. So let's just pull this in and make a start. And what we're going to do is we're going to shorten this. So we have just 8 bars. And I'm going to come over here to the region inspector and we are going to hit reverse like so. So let's check this out now. Okay, cool. So that's the first part. So let's try and fit this in and make sure it's in the right key with the others. So let's play back. Okay, it definitely isn't. So we need to add 4 semitones of transpose up. So let's try this now. Okay, that's taking shape. So now I'm going to add some effects to this channel and let's see what we come up with. Okay, so another great effect that comes in Logic 10.5 is the step effects. I can't remember if it's in 10.4, but I believe it definitely does go very much unused. So I'm using it here on the Twilight piano. So of course we've reversed the audio, we've also transposed it up, and now let me switch on this step effects. And what you'll notice here as well is I've got the raw loops just muted at the top, so we can refer back to this at the end just to see where we came from. So let's move on to our next sound. Okay, so let's bring in yet another loop. I found this one and I really like this one as well. Check this out. Really, really nice. A harp sound there. Let's pull that in and let's see what we can do with that. Again, we want to disguise it and have it playing within our production and not be recognized as one of the items from the loop library. First thing we do is we're going to adjust the pitch. Yeah, I think they work really well together. Plus for transposition, let's do something with some effects as well. Once again, I'm going to use Logic's Step Effects processor to transform this into something quite different. But first of all, I'm going to use the EQ to filter out some of the low end. So let's bypass first of all. And now let's switch it in. Okay, so we're taking out a lot of that bottom end, much of the middle. So all we've really got is really the high mids and the highs, okay? Now let's switch on our step effects. Let's hear how that sounds with the rest of the parts. I think that's shaping up really, really well. Okay, let's move on to the next sound. Okay, so the next sound I'm going to choose might seem a bit weird and incompatible with what we've got going on here. Let's have a quick listen. Okay, now I'm using this particular sound so I can demonstrate again some of the power of the tools in Logic. So we're going to create a brand new sampler instrument. And once again, we're going to drag and drop this loop into the sampler. We're going to go zone per file this time. I'm going to isolate this first section of the loop. I mean, it's just a repeating kick and I just want this part right here. It's on C1, so let's play that back. The next thing I'm going to do is come up to the synth section, click on details, switch it to monophonic. I'm now going to switch on the filter and I want the cutoff to be set pretty low. because I just want that low end, not the kick, just that low boom. Let's go back down to zone. I'm going to press and hold on the keyboard. You can hear the note repeating. What you want to do is come down here to mode and click on that, and you're going to click on no loop. The note is not going to loop anymore. I want to shorten this because I don't want that bump in the middle. I'm going to come right in like so. Now there's a little click at the end here, and I'm going to pull this like so and just add a little fade here. Next thing I'm going to do is click on follow tempo, and then I'm going to choose speed and go to half speed. Okay, all of a sudden we've got an 808 type bass. So why don't we stretch this across the keyboard and stretch it this way? Maybe an octave. Okay, and I'm just going to keep modifying this until I'm happy with the overall sound, and then we're going to add a couple of audio effects. Now over here on the channel strip, I've got this plugin right here, which I'm going to pull up. I've demonstrated it before. It's a free plugin, and it really does add some lovely colors and harmonics to your tracks, especially if you want to add definition to the low end. So I'll have a link in the description where you can actually download this for free. Anyway, bypassed. And now with the effect on. And let me show you what's happening with this EQ right here. Look at the spectrum analyzer on the EQ. Okay, a lot of energy down here, but let's switch this on and let's have a look. Okay, so there's a lot more definition in the sort of mid section, which will actually allow the bass sound to cut through the mix a bit better. So here's the pattern I've come up with. Okay, so it's time now for us to add some drums to our production. So I've come up here to the loop browser. In the search box, I've typed trap, and I'm going to go with this loop right here, this drum loop right here. Cool, but I'm not just going to use the loop as it is. I'm just going to pull it over here because we just want to use the kick drum. We're going to come right over here to the track section, and we're going to pull up quick sampler, optimized, and release. Okay, so once again, the Logic Quick Sampler has done a fantastic job in slicing this up into individual segments. So let's play those back. Okay, so I can choose to play any of these notes in whatever order. I'm just going to go with the kick drum for now. I'm going to play through a kick drum pattern and then we'll move on. Okay, so I've laid down a very quick kick drum pattern using our new kick drum instrument. I've also added an instance of drummer, and I've taken out the kick drum, the snare, and just left the hi-hats and the claps in. Okay, so just hear that back. Okay, so let's just add one final layer to this and we'll call it a wrap. So the final piece of the puzzle is to add a sampled vocal melody. So I'm going to use this vocal melody right here, and I'm going to push it into the quick sampler and then tap out a melody made up from the notes and phrases in this melody. Like I said, this whole exercise is based on Apple loops. I'm going to convert this audio file right here into an Apple loop. I'm not going to demonstrate this right now, but you can check out my video which goes through the entire process of converting audio files into Apple loops, editing them and deleting Apple loops if you need to. Okay, so the link will be up top as well as at the very end of this video. So here's the audio of the vocal that I'm going to be using. Everybody knows. And it's running at 100 BPM. It's in C minor. So this, of course, is the original sample. What we're going to do is come to my loops library and let's just type in everybody. I'm going to be using this one, which is already in my Apple loops library. Everybody knows. And what I'm going to do now is grab this and drop it over here. Everybody knows. Quick sampler optimized. So here's our new instrument with our vocal sample automatically sliced up in the quick sampler. So let me just go through the notes. Everybody knows. We're going to reduce the sensitivity so we have less of the slices and more whole notes. So let's try this. Everybody knows. Excellent. I'm going to put one in right here just by clicking in the window and adjusting like so. Everybody knows. Now, if you look down here, we're going to switch gate on. So whenever you release the note will stop playing. And we're going to set this to follow tempo. And we're going to change the scaling so that it's just on white keys. Just makes it easier to play back the different notes. Everybody knows. Next thing I'm going to do right here is change the polyphony. So we're on monophonic and adjust the filter to get a cool sounding vocal effect. And then I'll show you what I've come up with and then we'll wrap up this video. Okay, so I've done my modifications, adjusted the pitch up by 7 semitones right here. I've messed with the filter, added this bandpass filter. I've adjusted the drive and the resonance as well as the key scale. Okay, and I've come up with a couple of melodies which we're going to play out with. But before we play out, I'm just going to quickly go back through all of the elements that we used to put this thing together. Okay, so let's just solo each one of those. I'm just going to give a quick playback for each of the elements so you can see where we started and where we've ended up. Okay, so that was our first one. Then the piano. Then we had the Firefly's harp. Festival kick, which we used for our bass line. We grabbed the kick drum out of this trap beat. And finally, we converted this audio file into an Apple loop and used this. Everybody knows. Of course, we've also got the drummer playing, which is still based on loop technology. All right, so these are all the elements right here that we're going to be playing back. So let's play this one out and I'll see you in the next video. Great stuff. I really do hope you found the video useful. If you did, drop me a line in the comment section, like the video, and subscribe to the channel. This will really help me out. Now remember to support me at deucebeats.com as well as on my social media channels. And finally, switch on that notification bell so just like the rest of the MTTC squad, you will find out as soon as my next video drops. Until next time, I'm Dr. Deuce. Peace.